Well, good morning to you. And thank you for joining me today as we come back to the book of Genesis and spend some time in the truth. I hope that you had a profitable weekend, spiritually speaking, that you were able to be in the Lord's house where the word of God was proclaimed and that God's able to work in your heart as a result of the interaction that you had with the Lord and with his people and with his word. We're back today in Genesis chapter 49 to continue on looking at the blessing that Jacob is giving to his sons. And today we pick it up in verse 13. And we're going to look at three blessings today. These are small predictions about three of his sons' futures. And so little bits add up to doing three of them today. Verse 13, we're introduced to the next son in line, and that son is Zebulun. Jacob says of Zebulun, Zebulun shall dwell at the seashore, or the shore of the sea. He shall become a haven for ships, and his border shall be at Sidon. So the next son that we're introduced to is Zebulun, and the picture in the blessing is that of prosperity by means of trade or commerce through shipping. And it seems to be a challenge when we look at it on the surface, when we consider that the tribe of Zebulun did not receive an inheritance that bordered the Mediterranean Sea. Between them and the Mediterranean Sea is the tribe of Asher. And of course, it is accurate that to the north of them, generally speaking, would be Sidon or Phoenicia. But the idea that they would be a harbor for ships, I think, presents for us the greatest picture that they would be profitable by means of commerce that came from the sea. Being along with the tribe of Issachar, which would be west of them. So Issachar, and then, well, this is going to seem backwards the way I'm doing it for you. But Issachar is here, and then Zebulun is here, and then Asher is here, generally speaking. So Issachar is in the Jezreel Valley, which we're going to find as we look at Issachar here in a minute. Jezreel Valley was a major trade route, and Zebulun would have bordered that trade route, and that would have led right to the Mediterranean Sea. And so the fact that they could prosper through shipping as a people, as a tribe, is not unreasonable. It isn't outside of possibility. They could easily have become very great traders, being on that trade route and not that far from the Mediterranean Sea on that trade route. And so the picture of them being prosperous by means of the sea is possible in every way. I tried to look at a map today to see if there was some kind of river or means through which the ships could get inland to Zebulun. I didn't see any evidence of that. But the fact that they could be prosperous traders does exist. And apparently they did become that, according to Scripture. And so Zebulun gets this blessing. Their existence in the future, their inheritance in the future would be a prosperous inheritance as the blessing is delivered to Zebulun. Following Zebulun then is the tribe of Issachar. And again, they would be bordering the tribe of Zebulun to the west, coming from the Mediterranean Sea. They would be bordering them to the west, bordering the Jordan River. So the river valley would have been part of that. Again, all of that part of this Jezreel Valley that is this trade route that goes from west to east to the Mediterranean Sea. And so his prophecy or his blessing on Issachar comes here in verses 14 and 15. Issachar, he says, is a strong donkey crouching between sheepfolds. He saw that a resting place was good and that the land was pleasant, so he bowed his shoulder to bear and became a servant at forced labor. So again, here we have this description of Issachar. He is a strong donkey. Donkeys were beasts of burden, animals that were very valued in ancient times because of their ability to carry heavy loads, because of their ability to work to accomplish much work, great amounts of work. And so Zebulun being described as a strong donkey, crouching between the sheepfolds, as the place where Zebulun is going to be, or not Zebulun, Issachar is going to be in the inheritance. And so he's going to be the one who, as the picture goes on here, he sees that the resting place is good and that the land is pleasant. So it's going to be, again, if it's on the Jordan Valley, bordering on one side, the river, and then the Valley of Jezreel as part of the land, it would have been a very prosperous place, a great parcel of land to have inherited. And so it says that he bowed his shoulder to bear. So it's a picture of the hard work, same kind of picture in my mind as the strong donkey. That Issachar was a tribe of people in Israel that was not afraid to work. They put their shoulder to the work. And as the strong donkey, they accomplished the work. And then it says that they became servants at forced labor. There's a number of different interpretations of what that idea looks like. I don't know that I have a confident interpretation of that, except for they did become the servants who helped others get their product from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. They were part of that trade route. And so the work at forced labor, although there is some indication, we know that they may have been under subjection to the Canaanites for a time, as Deborah, by God's will, leads the people in Judges. Issachar is one of the tribes that is involved in the conquest of the Canaanites. And so it appears as though for a time the Canaanites had the Issacharites under their thumb. They were being pressured by them. The forced labor or the pressure of the Canaanites. There may be a picture of it there as well. And so there's a few things that I can't give you a confident, I know this is what this is about, because there's so many different opinions. Ultimately, they were a strong tribe that did much work. Best part of that I can look at coming from the verses that we're looking at today. And then we jump from the tribe of Issachar to the people of Dan in verses 16 and 17. Jacob goes on to look at Dan and says to Dan, Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan shall be a serpent on the way, or in the way, a viper by the path that bites the horse's heels so that the rider falls backward. So this picture of Dan being a judge of his people, some believe that the statement is general, and that Dan would be part of those who would judge, generally speaking, the people of Israel. And then because of this phrase that exists in here, it says that he would judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. So some look at that phrase and say, okay, well, that phrase narrows the field. It's not Dan being pictured as a judge over the entire nation, but over themselves as a tribe in the nation of Israel. Again, I don't think there's conclusive evidence either way to prove that they didn't have an influence in the land of Israel, or to prove that they were only restricted to judging themselves. But that's what Jacob said they would do. They would be judges in some form. So whether it was over the rest of the tribes or influencing those, or just over the tribe of Dan, either way, they were going to be judges of the people. Verse 17 says that Dan would be like a serpent in the way, a viper by the path that bites the horse's heels so that the rider falls backwards. And here we look at the tribe of Dan. Now, the tribe of Dan in the inheritance, as we look at Joshua and Judges, the tribe of Dan was kind of a divided tribe. Part of the tribe got an inheritance that bordered on the Philistine land on the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. And part of the tribe was inhabiting the city of Laish. So they weren't together, the entire tribe. There were two separate parts of it. This one, I think, this part of the prophecy leans more toward those who had been given the inheritance on the border of the Philistines. And so the picture of a serpent on the way that bites at the heels. We all know the conflict that Israel had with the Philistines through much of the Old Testament. And so to be a tribe that bordered on their land, the conflict constantly between the Philistine people and the people of Dan and the other tribes of Israel that bordered Philistine territory is, I believe, pictured here. And that the people of Dan, though they were a small portion, a small tribe bordering the Philistine land, they were trouble for the Philistines. As a small group, they did a bunch of damage to the Philistine armies that would oppress them. So the serpent biting at the heels of the horse, causing the rider to be thrown, is the picture of that, the cunning and strength of the Danite people as they fought against the Philistines. Though being small in number, they still had an impact on that struggle between Israel and Philistia. And so Dan is going to be a small tribe, but a profitable tribe, not just for themselves, but for the people. And so the blessing that comes on Dan is pictured here in verses 16 and 17. Tomorrow we will look at verse 18. Many commentators don't see verse 18 as part of the statement about the inheritance to Dan specifically, but see it as a separate statement made by Joshua as he says, I wait for your salvation, O Lord. We'll look at it tomorrow. I really didn't spend that much time looking at it today, so I'll look at it before tomorrow, and we'll see if there's a connection between the two. But we're going to stop today at verse 17 to see, bring an end to our time in the truth today, and we'll look at that tomorrow as we step back in. Well, thanks for joining me today. I hope that you'll spend time in the Word, that you'll spend time in prayer today, that you'll spend time serving the Lord, trusting Him to make right decisions as you go through your day, that our day and the activity of our day might bring glory to the Lord and provide for some form of growth spiritually in our lives as we study. And so thanks again for joining me. I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow as we come back and pick it up at verse 18. Have a great day in the Lord.